Welcome everybody to Word Vancouver and to this very special screening of Moving Words. We're going to be seeing a set of poetry videos today. Thanks for coming out on a beautiful sunny day when so many things are happening. There'll still be some events, of course, going on outside, out in the ice rink and also above the poetry bus and a tent by the art gallery. So I invite you to stay and linger to see and attend some of those events as well. Anyways, welcome to our special screening today. And of course, we should acknowledge that we are on the unceded homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. And we are very honored and privileged to be in this space right now. So today we're going to be seeing a number of poetry videos, but before I start with the screening of the 13 poetry videos, I thought I'd give a little bit of an introduction to why these poetry videos were made. So if you see the first slide here, the first slide tells you that this is the part of the City Poems Project. The City Poems Project is my legacy project as a Poet Laureate of Vancouver. A Poet Laureate of Vancouver is a position that was set up in 2006, and it's privately funded by Dr. Joseph Wask, who was one of the philanthropists who set up the beautiful library we have here in West Georgia. And he felt the city needed a Poet Laureate. And so the first Poet Laureate was George McWhirter, and I am the 6th Poet Laureate. And each Poet Laureate, when they are nominated and they're applying for the position, must propose a legacy project. And my legacy project was the City Poems Poetry Project. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see that there was a contest last year in January when I started the position to June, and folks were asked to write poems about historical, cultural, or ecological sites within the city of Vancouver. And there were over 250 poems submitted. Only 238 were eligible because people are writing about Richmond and Burnaby and places like that. And unfortunately, I am not the Poet Laureate of Metro Vancouver, only of Vancouver. So we could only look at those 238 poems. And so the 3 judges looked at the poems. Some were for youth. There were youth poems. Some were emerging poets who hadn't published in a book form yet, and others were established poets who had published a book of poetry. And so there were 27 poems that were shortlisted and a number of poets in each category. And we had a special awards ceremony back in June in the library to honor those shortlisted and finalist poets. And you can see that there were many, many poems written about very many different sites within Vancouver. And there are pictures from the awards ceremony below. And then this year, if you see the next slide, you'll see that there was this elaborate setup of getting those eligible shortlisted finalist poems to be turned into poetry videos. And so what I did was I approached Emily Carr University of Art and Design, SFU, and also UBC. And there are 4 classes from those 3 post-secondary institutions who would agree to make poetry videos as part of their course. And I know that some of the poets wanted to make their own poetry videos, and they were allowed to do that if they chose students to work with, post-secondary students to work with. With the youth poets, because there was a special circumstances about consent and so forth, they were given a workshop led by 3 wonderful teachers, the MIM collective, and they helped these youth poets who were interested in doing their own poetry videos to make them. And you're going to see 2 of those poetry videos made by post-secondary students at the start, and then you'll see the post-secondary videos that I've curated and selected as well. So the youth poetry workshop was Dora Prieto and Daniela and Michelle Martin, and they were a wonderful trio that helped the students at Moberly Park field house there. And then with these other classes, you can see that one of the Emily Carr classes was an animation class. It was a second year animation class. So they had a big leap because it was working in teams to do a full poetry video. And usually that's something that would be done in third or fourth year. And then the UBC class was an Indigenous New Media class. And this was the first time they did poetry videos as well. And then the SFU class, they hadn't worked with poetry. So everyone was really going beyond their comfort zone with some terrific teachers to try something completely new. And if you see on the next slide, what happened was we had a contest for these poetry videos. There were about 33 of them, and they were posted on the Vancouver Public Library's YouTube playlist, which and they're still available there if you want to see all 33 of them. And there was an audience choice voting system just by likes. And so there were winners of the Audience Choice Prize for each university. And we also had a screening of the Audience Choice winners and the winners that were judged by Heather Haley. And that was at the Museum of Vancouver. And today we have a special screening as well for some of the videos. And there are some that we couldn't fit into the hour that you can still see on the Vancouver Public Library's YouTube playlist. But that's not the end of the story, because each of those student teams that made those poetry videos can submit their poetry videos to festivals and contests around the world, online magazines, and so forth. And I just got word recently, for those of you who are in the audience who've made a poetry video, that the Houston, Texas Poetry Video Festival wants me to curate a special online video poetry screening in April. And I am going to choose some of the City Poems Project videos for that screening. So some of the videos that were produced for this project are going to be seen internationally. Yay! Yes, because I really feel strongly about poetry, and I really feel strongly about student creativity. And I feel like your work deserves to be seen, your work deserves to be heard, and poetry videos are a great way to bridge the gap when so many people are a little bit intimidated by poetry. They can't access the words, they don't understand it, but with a little bit of visuals, a little bit of music, a little bit of sound design, suddenly the poem comes alive. The poem is a seed, and then the visual artists, the filmmakers can make it become manifest to a very broad audience. And on video, you can access this on maybe the poet's website. You can access this on the filmmaker's websites. You can access this on festival websites. You can post them on Instagram, sound bites of them. And people will just get a taste, and maybe they'll want more. That's my hope, of course, that they'll want much more. So the next slide, you'll see what the next stages are. I have a 2-year tenure. It started in 2022. It ends next year. And the stage 3 of my project is for these poems to become available as audio recordings on the sites that they're about. So this team at UBC is going to set up an app where you can go to the particular site and then hear the poem, hear the poet read the poem, and be able to sit there and take in the poem about that particular space. So that's in process right now. And then stage 4 is me actually writing poems about the city. And I'm in the process of doing it. You can see that there's some public art there. There's the Henry Moore statue at the top of Queen Elizabeth Park. I wrote a poem about that. And then there's that special chandelier. Who here has seen the art chandelier? It's under Granville Street Bridge, and it's at Beach Avenue, under Granville Street Bridge by that tower. And it's a huge 3-ton crystal, polyurethane crystal chandelier that spins, I think at noon and at 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. Designed by Rodney Graham as a piece of public art that cost $4.8 million to build over 4 years. And it's quite the fascinating and controversial site. So I plan to be writing poems about that. But I think for me, the big journey was working on these poetry videos. So anybody here who has worked on a poetry video for the City Poems Project, could you please stand? Anybody here? Let's give them a big round of applause. Made some beautiful, beautiful poetry videos. I know a lot of people are actually streaming this who cannot come to the event, or because there are 11 other competing events going on right now for Word, they're like, oh, they're feeling a little bit multiple personality disorder, knowing what to choose. But they're going to be seeing the recording of this, or they're actually watching right now. So anyways, so without further ado, I'm going to start the poetry video screening with the help of our wonderful tech help here at the festival. And you're going to be seeing 13 poetry videos. All of them are under 5 minutes or less. So if you don't like one, you might like the next one. And with each one, there's a different approach and a different style. And what you'll find that is that there's some poems that were repeated, and there are different interpretations of that poem. And it makes the poem feel so different, even though it's based on the same words, which I think is really, really cool, that people can interpret poems different ways visually. And how they do that, you'll see on screen. So do stick around. Each poem is about a particular place within the city, and it's based on a particular poem by a local poet. And I was so pleased that the City of Vancouver, Vancouver Public Library, and the Vancouver Writers Festival were all behind me and supporting me in going out to the schools, talking about these poetry videos, and supporting a vision to have these poems, these poetry videos come out to you to make poetry more engaging and more accessible. So I hope you enjoy these 13 poetry videos. Enjoy.
Revival. I am here. Trees climb the sky, reaching for stars, pulling them down in rain. The ground is buoyant, alive with moss and decay, or rebirth. Wind pulls branches into swaying dances, giving them life through movement. Roots stretch, a tapestry, connecting the trees, bringing their dance to the ground so even the saplings can sway along. Leaves rustle, feathers rustle, wings beat to the rhythm of the wind. I am part of this dance. Those wings are my own. I am alive.
Know who you are and know where you come from. For my grandfather, Fiona, Edward Sparrow, born in 1898 in a Musqueam village at the mouth of the Fraser River. He died in 1998 at the age of 99 and 1/2. Driving along the shoreline of what is now called the city of Vancouver, my grandfather Schwenam beside me, and one or more of my 3 children in the back seat, listening to him tell us the histories of these great lands. The same histories his grandparents told him as they drove along in horse and buggy. And the same histories their grandparents told them walking along these shores or in canoe. "300 years of stories are still being passed on. Schwenam can rest, knowing, as I have, as he did, what we share as people of this land. Blessed to have this time with him, I will take with me into the future the success and integrity of our people. I know who I am, I know my history, and I know where I come from. My roots are planted firmly in the very soil that my ancestors are buried. I am connected, my children are connected, and my grandchildren will be connected. We will be here another millennium as we have been for 9 millennia past. When asked of the First Nations people, who said this land belonged to you? There are no signs on a mountaintop. It is not written anywhere. Anywhere you open the earth, the evidence is there. It is written in the earth.
remember my father telling Tim and me about the mountains and the train and the excitement of going on a trip. What do I remember of the evacuation? I remember my mother wrapping a blanket around me and my pretending to fall asleep so she would be happy, although I was so excited I couldn't sleep. I hear there were people herded into the Hastings Park like cattle. Families were made to move in 2 hours, abandoning everything, leaving pets and possessions at gunpoint. I hear families were broken up. Men were forced to work. I heard it whispered late at night that there was suffering. And I missed my dolls. What do I remember of the evacuation? I remember Miss Foster and Miss Tucker, who still live in Vancouver, and who did what they could and loved the children, and who gave me a puzzle to play with on the train. And I remember the mountains. And I was 6 years old, and I swear I saw a giant Gulliver of Gulliver's Travels scanning the horizon. And when I told my mother, she believed it too. And I remember how careful my parents were not to bruise us with bitterness. And I remember the puzzle of Lorraine Life, who said, "Don't insult me," when I proudly wrote my name in Japanese and Tim flew the Union Jack when the war was over. But Lorraine and her friends spat on us anyway. And I prayed to the God who loves all the children in his sight that I might be white.
Nostalgia is a territory. Chain-smoking seagulls do yoga on the horizon at dawn. English Bay organized into lanes with flaming buoys for swimmers to do their drive-by banking. The bridge shut down for candidates who launched down the inlet on robotic wings competing for votes. People tread water below to witness swallow the new Pacific vaccine. The famous building with the tree growing out of its roof drinks rainwater, spits mercury into the teacups of developers. Acid rain rainbows the parade tie-dye. The marchers photograph their chemical shadows and post in Renaissance filter reflections in oil paints. Pride belly flops into a harbor of profit. The portrait artist hired by the mayor works until sunset, then lies down in the surf and dissolves, skin floating off clear as jellyfish, black formal tails trailing ink. It is so beautiful here. This child will draw your caricature for free by throwing a glass of coins in your face and raising his fingers to catch the bent light that arcs off your cheekbones. Blink and you'll miss the moon inspecting its own bruises, reading Captain Vancouver's letters home by the lights of 1,000 rigs, miniatures available in bottles for collectors and investors. Visit soon.
Along Alma, the mountains bedazzle the bay below. The roadway dips down and meanders past Almond Park, our rallying point. Vancouver's peaks, parks, and promenades, no less than sales and shipping. Always we've gathered on streets to dream dreams, contest plans. Alma is today's stage. Our demonstrators, bathers, climbers, gardeners, walkers went north to the bay. We hoist home-brewed blue-yellow flags, dozens of signs. Traffic stops, lights hesitate, pedestrians stare, throngs grow like a steady flowing river. We move north, loving nature, peace, justice, and civil liberty.
Alma is a river in Crimea flowing northwest from mountains to Black Sea. Our hand-drawn placards tell that over a century past, Allied forces beat back the Russians, but the Russians overtook the land again, and with it, the Alma. Ukrainians fought as underdogs to retake the land. More than once did they battle short of victory, hundreds of lost lives.
This time it will be different. We'll help them. We who walk and ride freely along Alma will raise the common consciousness. Muralists and gardeners speak of blue and yellow sunflowers along Alma.
Wzdłuż oboch Almas.
Along both Almas.
The chipped wooden cane of my century-old grandmother beats haphazardly against the damp asphalt, drumming to a history of broken dreams, fossilized by gray-black gum, chewed by absent ancestors. A mustached man on East Pender, a has-been accountant with a southern Chinese accent, my grandmother once mistaken as her late husband, hollers across the crowd of Sunday shoppers that his gailon is fresher, greener, and crisper than his competitor on Keeper. His calculated eyes full of adulterous ambitions, the slight upturn of his lips resembling a smile that women once swooned over during better times. On sale, Pawpaw, the man who is not my grandfather says. Bargain, 99 cents a pound. The man's village accent echoes down the paint-splattered street, sending pigeons flocking from frayed electric lines. Hushed chatter of forgotten rice paddies and fermented fish, sun-dried on an old laundry line above a charcoaled fire, in a blackened hut no different to the one my grandmother once called her home. The tattered shoes on my grandmother's unbound feet shuffles alongside graffitied walls and broken windows. Post-apocalyptic scenes of a war-torn past made present, except this is not a war, at least not the kind with guns and grenades. Hungry taste buds dance to the rhythm of fat glistening on golden roast ducks, strung out on silver hooks in a butcher shop window on Gore, laminated with grease as thick as the layers of paint on its exterior. The city donated paint to fix the graffiti problem, the butcher tells my grandmother, breathing out a long, drawn-out sigh while waving his cleaver. We suffer there, we suffer here. Who did I wrong in my past life? My grandmother's cataract eyes squint at the shadows that flicker to the glow of a red paper lantern, while pale-skinned tourists watch the fat drip from carcasses like raindrops cascading to the ground from rooftops. A hipster waltzes into the butcher shop. In designer jeans he claims are from Value Village, but he purchased on a whim from Nordstrom. Belly full of foie gras, served on heirloom sourdough, he washes down with a $7 oat milk latte, while K-pop blasts from his $1,000 earbuds as he snaps a photo of my century-old grandmother. Authentic China doll Pawpaw, the hipster says, as he shares a filtered snapshot with the world.
Here is the balcony where I looked at the sunset sometime as a child. Bloom of orange all over the sky, like 17 suns setting. And the sound of the sky crying happily. The swimming pool in snow, through windows. Somehow, the streets will never smell so concrete again. The wild feeling of a child of the time, when the city was not so expensive. And we could feast on light.
Part 1. Linger. Under ink flowers, peach and shy, cherry blossoms, the woman in red plays the guzheng, singing, I've longed for stones in my sleep, jade water in trembling eyes, cranes crooning a monsoon song. I bowed before the stones with faces foreign to me, the ground chilling my palm. When these gravestones reveal faces I remember, how long will my memories last? How long will they linger? Part 2. Bridge. Water spills to the head of heaven. I glance down, witnessing Taihu rocks rising from the knuckles of my interlaced fingers, the canyons and rivers. Is it too early to retire to the mountains like Zhuge Liang and wait for scholars to knock on my thatched cottage when my return is imminent? In the garden, across generations, stones were yes to the earth, as the living hums with the remembered, still slumbering. Part 3. Memorial. Eastern winds blow to China, to the graves of my grandfather and grandmother. as I carry with me the stones and grief on this bridge between the living and the lost. Part 4. Art. To heal from Yin Tian, melancholy, the woman in red plays the guzheng. Her dances weaving through cherry blossoms. She remembers. The ink of a wanderer has not yet dried. To linger, to write, to dance like the shadows on walls. Art bridges, connects. Recording the stones, grief, and warmth. Transient moments of rest. And homes for us. The passers-by. The Garden Echoes, written and directed by Vivian Lee.
Nostalgia is a territory.
Chain-smoking seagulls do yoga on the horizon at dawn. English Bay organized into lanes with flaming buoys for swimmers to do their drive-by banking. Port shut down for candidates who launched down on the inlet on robotic wings competing for votes. People tread water below to witness. Swallow the new Pacific vaccine. The famous building with the tree growing out of its roof drinks rainwater, spits mercury into the teacups of developers. Acid rain rainbows of the parade tie-dye. The marchers photograph their chemical shadows and post in a Renaissance filter. Reflections in oil paints. Pride. Belly flops into a harbor of profit. Portrait artist hired by the mayor works until sunset, then lays down, surf and dissolves, skin floating off clear as a jellyfish, black formal tails trailing ink.
It is so beautiful here. This child will draw your character for free by throwing a glass of coins in your face and raising his fingers to catch the bent light that arcs off your cheekbones. Blink and you'll miss the moon, inspecting its own bruises, reading Captain Vancouver's letters home by the lights of 1,000 rigs, miniatures available in bottles for collectors and investors. Visit soon.
On May 23rd, 1914, a steamship sailed into Burrard Inlet in Vancouver. On board were 376 passengers of Sikh, Muslim, and Hindu origin. Those passengers chose Canada. When they arrived here, they were rejected.
welcome. I often speak to the grass, the trees, and the river. They never tell me I wasn't welcome. I heard the wind chatting with leaves, not once a note of hatred. The rain and the snow touch me on my shoulders as many other friends do. The birds come every morning and sing outside my window, welcoming me into a new place, a new day. Why weren't they consulted when the decision was made to send my Kamagata Maru away? ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਮੈਂ ਅਕਸਰ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਹਾਂ ਘਾਹ ਨਾਲ, ਦਰਖਤਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਦਰਿਆ ਨਾਲ। ਕਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਖੁਸ਼ ਆਮਦੀਦ ਨਹੀਂ। ਮੈਂ ਹਵਾ ਨੂੰ ਪੱਤਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਤਬਸਰਾ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕ ਵੀ ਇਸ਼ਾਰਾ ਨਫ਼ਰਤ ਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ। ਮੀਂਹ ਅਤੇ ਬਰਫ਼ ਮੇਰੇ ਦੋਸਤਾਂ ਦੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮੋਢਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਸਪਰਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ। ਹਰ ਸਵੇਰ ਪੰਛੀ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਮੇਰੇ ਘਰ ਦੀ ਬਾਰੀ ਥੱਲੇ ਗੀਤ ਗਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਨਵੇਂ ਦਿਨ ਲਈ ਨਵੀਂ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ 'ਤੇ ਜੀਆਂ ਆਖਦੇ ਹਨ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਕਾਮਾਗਾਟਾ ਮਾਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਪਸ ਭੇਜਣ ਦਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਫੈਸਲਾ?
The chipped wooden cane of my century-old grandmother beats haphazardly against the damp asphalt, drumming to a history of broken dreams, fossilized by gray-black gum, chewed by absent ancestors. A mustached man in East Pender, a has-been accountant with a southern Chinese accent, my grandmother once mistaken as her late husband, hollers across the crowd of Sunday shoppers that his gailon is fresher, greener, and crisper than his competitor on kefir. His calculated eyes full of adulterous ambition, the slight upturn of his lips resembling a smile that women once swooned over during better times. On sale, Pawpaw, the man who is not my grandfather says. Bargain, 99 cents a pound. The man's village accent echoes down the paint-splattered street, sending pigeons flocking from frayed electric lines. Hushed chatter of forgotten rice paddies and fermented fish, sun-dried on an old laundry line. Above a charcoal fire in a blackened hut, no different to the one my grandmother once called her home. The tattered shoes of my grandmother's unbound feet shuffles alongside graffitied walls and broken windows. Post-apocalyptic scenes of a war-torn past made present, except this is not a war, at least not the kind of guns and grenades. Hungry taste buds dance to the rhythm of fat glistening on golden roast ducks, strung out on silver hooks in a butcher shop window on gore, laminated with grease as thick as the layers of paint on its exterior. The city donated paint to fix the graffiti problem, the butcher tells my grandmother, breathing out a long, drawn-out sigh while waving his cleaver. We suffer there, we suffer here. Who did I wrong in my past life? My grandmother's cataract eyes squint at the shadows that flickered to the glow of a red paper lantern, while pale-skinned tourists watch the fat drip from carcasses like raindrops cascading to the ground from rooftops. A hipster waltzes into the butcher shop in designer jeans he claims are from Value Village, but he purchased on a whim from Nordstrom, belly full of foie gras served on heirloom sourdough he washes down with a $7 oat milk latte, while K-pop blasts from his $1,000 earbuds as he snaps a photo of my century-old grandmother. Authentic China doll, Popo, the hipster says, as he shares the filtered snapshot with the world.
This was meant to be for Nora. I dreamt Jimmy last night, tight purple pants frenetically keeping beat, sequins, scarves, and pink feather boa, jamming and getting down to Voodoo Child, wah-wah pedal squealing, a lullaby. I dreamt Jimmy last night, fell asleep thinking about his grandmother Nora, 827 East Georgia Street. I wanted my thoughts to permeate my dreams, have a conversation, inspire something, if not epic, at least sit at her knees, grandmother to granddaughter like, past history, future tense, talk community. But damn, that sexy intro to Vietnam War machine gun kept intruding in my dreamscape. I wanted to do more than a passing nod to a fierce woman who co-founded the African Methodist Episcopal Church, 823 Jackson Street. Floats hazily in my dreams, all bright neon-y, pinky purple to Jimmy's acid guitar riffs. Nora nods her head, claps, Bible in hand. What a trip. I dreamt Jimmy last night, and this was meant to be for Nora.
Guitar music, great. Anyways, thank you so much for coming to see these poetry videos. This is a sampling of 13 of the 33, 35 poetry videos that were made. If you want to see any of them, of course, you can watch the recording of this show, but you can also see the other ones as well on the Vancouver Public Library's YouTube playlist. If you need to access them or want to know more about the festival, the contest that we did, you can find them on the Vancouver Poet Laureate's website, my website, fionalamb.net. Anyways, thank you all for coming out. Thanks to the poets and to the poetry filmmakers.